Morning, guys. Welcome back to Faith in Focus. This is the companion podcast to the TSA Weekly podcast, but Faith in Focus is designed specifically for my fellow Christian entrepreneurs. And, this week is going to be kind of off the cuff, just like how TSA Weekly was. I don't even necessarily have a specific Bible verse in mind, but there was something that I was talking about over on TSA this week, just talking about the idea of building a routine that you absolutely love coming home to. You may have seen that I was out of town the last week or so. I had pre-recorded everything. And so for the last week, my routine kind of got changed up a little bit. I wasn't filming content. I wasn't doing any of that. And so coming home and getting back into the swing of things, it just got me thinking about how important it is that we build a routine that we love. And I think this is even more important when it comes to our time with God. And that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about this morning. But before we dive into that, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and ring that little notification bell so that you never miss a tutorial or upload. Okay, so time with God, our devotional. This is something, I don't know about you, but this is something that I have struggled with periodically throughout my life. There are times when I am super inspired. I have, like a book that I'm going through that's like a guide. I've built the routine. I've got the time set aside. And I even was doing this on my trip, by the way. Time with God is not something that I take a vacation from in the same way. I might do it in a slightly different way, but I'm still going to do it because that's not a chore. That's not work, right? But that's the thing though, is that sometimes the way that we're building it into our routine, it can feel that way. It can feel like a chore, an obligation, something that we're, checking off of our list as opposed to something that we're excited to jump into. And I think there's a lot of things that impact how we feel about that. I mean, sometimes it's just circumstantial. It's what we're going through in that moment. We may not be feeling super close to God in a certain moment. Maybe we're struggling with something that we've been praying for and we just don't feel like we're getting either the answer that we want or just feeling like we're not getting any answer at all. So we're just feeling kind of distant from that. We all go through different seasons in our faith where, we feel super fired up and super excited about God, and then times where maybe we feel less so. And that's just our human nature. That's why our faith is not built around our feelings. If it was, we'd be in some serious trouble. But it's the same thing when you think about like a relationship that you might have with your spouse or, I don't know, I don't have kids, but like I could see this also being a situation with having kids. There are just some days where you may not feel especially loving towards that person. Doesn't mean you don't love them, but either because you're just feeling irritable or you're stressed out or, maybe it is something they're even doing that is making you upset. And so you're not feeling super loving towards them in that moment. Or maybe you're just tired, and you'd rather just kind of go into your little space and have some me time and not interact with family or whatever that might be. And I get that. But if we based our relationships around the way we feel in a given moment, we'd be in trouble. And I think that has a lot to do with the divorce rate, right? Is that when people aren't feeling especially loving, they start thinking, oh, well, maybe I've outgrown this person, or maybe I don't love this person. And I think it's a pretty widely recognized now in the world of relationships and all of that it's work. Like, yes, you love this person all the time. Sometimes you feel extra loving towards the person, and sometimes you don't necessarily. You just know that you love them and you care for them and all of that. And that's the time when you need to work at it a little bit harder. And how could it not be the same thing in our relationship with God? We know that our relationship with God is meant to be a model for our relationships with other people, especially with our spouses. So why would we think that the struggles and the challenges that we go through in our relationships here on earth would not also be mirrored in our relationships with God? The difference there is that God is not having those struggles towards us. We're having them towards him. In a relationship here on earth, obviously, it goes both ways. We both go through those struggles and those seasons of, ups and downs and all of that. With God, he's always right there, ready and waiting for us. But we go through those seasons of feeling really close to him and really wanting to be close to him all the time. And then the times where it starts to sort of feel a little bit like a chore. And just like I would never suggest that if you are feeling a little bit distant from your spouse or your kids or whatever, that you just like take some time away. Like, that's not the answer. The answer is working at it and talking about it and finding ways to bring yourselves closer together again, right? That's the exact same approach that we need to take with God. When we're feeling that distance, when we're feeling that separation, it's coming from us. It can be coming from multiple different sources. It could be coming from hurt, pain, stress, all the things that we were talking about. It doesn't matter what the source is. The answer is still working at it and showing up. But I've been thinking about this a lot lately because there are a lot of different approaches we can take to our time with God, right? I mean, typically you want it to include some reading of the Bible, you want it to include prayer and all of that. But how we approach it and how we find our rhythm with our time with God is going to be as unique and different as each of us. Now, one of the things that my church always does, and I love that they do this because it's great for people who are trying to build that routine and they feel that the accountability and showing up for community and all of that is motivating for them. But they always do kind of like a reading plan through, we're using the Bible app, and most of the time they're the Bible Project ones. Those are fantastic. If you haven't ever done them, they're great. They give you so much background and history and knowledge into whatever passages you might be reading in that plan. And so it's really, really helpful. It's really interesting for me to watch their videos and see, like, they kind of visually map out how that book actually works and like what's going on at that time in history and all that. It's really, really interesting. And so sometimes I do that with my church and I'm part of that Bible reading plan. But then sometimes for me, like, that's not where I'm at in the moment. And so when I do that, it feels very obligatory. I, go read the passage or I listen to it. Sometimes I just let it play. And I will find that, like, if I do it super early in the morning, I might even like fall asleep listening to it. Or I'm doing it while I'm getting ready because I'm listening. And so then I kind of let myself get distracted. And then I realize, oh, I didn't even hear what they just said. It's not fitting into where I'm at that point. And so at that moment, I need to realize that it's not that what I'm reading or what I'm listening to is not impactful or not interesting. It's just not where I'm at right now. Where I'm at right now is I feel the need to have a little bit more, I don't want to say practical application, but yeah, a little bit where there are people bringing in their thoughts and perspectives. And the way that that particular Bible plan works, yeah, you have the devotional that does the video like I was talking about where they map everything out. And that's at the beginning of each new book. But while you're in that book, each day it's just Bible passages. And I like to sometimes have other people's thoughts because then they get me thinking in a different way and get me kind of expanding on the idea myself. And sometimes certain books of the Bible can be a little dry, let's be honest. So I need something that's a little bit more engaging for me. And so that's why right now I'm diving back into the First 5 app, which I've mentioned a couple times now. We're reading Jonah, which is a great book. If you have never read it, it's super interesting in a lot of ways. And one of the things they've been doing with it, and this has been like bringing my engagement back into it, they've been including every Friday, they are jumping out of Jonah and into the Psalms. But they're specifically using Psalms that would have already been written, already be around when Jonah was alive. So they're things that Jonah might have been thinking on while he was going through the storm on the ship, while he was sitting in the belly of a fish, while he was fighting God's calling in his life. These are the Psalms that might have gone through his mind. And they're applying the message of those Psalms to what Jonah is going through. That's so interesting to me, right? That's so engaging. And so it's helping me to stay up with my routine of being in my devotional, being in my time with God, but letting it stay fresh and interesting and exciting, and allows me to feel closer to God and not let it turn into something that becomes obligatory or too routine. This is where the idea of habit building and routine and the Bible and our time with God can potentially clash or have an issue. We don't ever want our time with God to feel routine. It should become part of our routine, so that is something that we do daily, but it should still be something that we look forward to. And the way that we do that is by keeping it fresh. If what you're doing right now, in whatever way, is feeling obligatory, it's feeling too routine, and you're not really sinking into it in any way, then I encourage you, even if you're like me and you feel like, okay, well, I've committed to doing this particular plan, and if I drop it now, I'm quitting and I'm letting myself down. No, you're not, because you're still going to keep up with your routine. You're just shifting gears. Okay. So if you're still struggling to build time with God into your routine, well, then this is your call to find something that excites you and interests you. So whether it's going online and finding a book that is a devotional that is interesting to you, that speaks to a particular topic that you're excited about right now, or that just really interests you, fantastic. Maybe it's using an app like the Bible app and going and doing the Bible project plans and really learning and getting into the history and the meat behind like what's going on, what is the context of these verses of the Bible. Or maybe it's jumping into something like I'm in right now with the First Five app, where I'm getting every day to hear the thoughts of other women who are reading these same books along with me, seeing what God is teaching them through what we're reading, and kind of like taking that a step further for myself. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach this, but it's really important that you find something that you're excited about and that inspires you to want to come back to it the next day. So that, yes, it becomes a regular part of your routine, but that it never actually becomes routine. So if you're at a place where you're struggling to find that in your walk with God, your time with God every day, you're not alone. There's a lot of suggestions here, but I want even more suggestions because these are certainly not the only options. So if you found something that gives you that feeling that you are so excited to jump into every day and you can't wait to see what God has to say to you that day, drop it in the comments because it might be exactly what somebody else is looking for. I hope this episode encouraged and inspired you. And if it did, please share it with another Christian business owner that could use the same encouragement. Thanks for being here. God bless you and your business. See you in the next episode.